Well, here's the astrological event that everyone has been talking about and that you guys have been requesting since at least the end of 2017, which just goes to show what kind of an anticipated event this is, and obviously for good reason, because we're talking about Uranus transiting to the sign of Taurus, which is happening as we speak right now. As I'm shooting this video, Uranus is on 0000 degrees of Taurus, right on the cusp, right? And by the way, I would like to get some feedback from you guys, some input from you guys. How are you feeling this transition, especially over these few days as Uranus shifts signs? What are you experiencing? What are you feeling? What is Taurus in your chart? Where is Taurus in your chart? Do you have any planets there? Is Uranus making any aspects? Share everything that you're willing to in the comment section below. And while you're down there, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell. So, Uranus and Taurus. Now, first of all, Uranus is one of the dark planets. Whenever we're talking about the dark planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, called the dark planets in hybrid astrology because they are invisible to the naked human eye under natural conditions. The dark planets operate differently from the planets that we can observe with our natural human sight, because we as humans and every other living form on our planet is fundamentally the light and energy of the sun playing around on the surface of Earth. That's no longer metaphysics, that's scientific. We are the energy of the sun, plain and simple. And if our light doesn't meet the light of the sun reflected from a certain planet, it means that that planet goes kind of in the underworld, okay? Doesn't mean it doesn't do anything. It means it gains a different kind of responsibility. And the dark planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, operate or influence more of the collective unconscious realms. They operate in the collective unconscious, where they direct various, currents of energies. And whenever we're trying to interpret the placement or the transit of Uranus, Neptune, or Pluto, the dark planets, we need to first and foremost, we need to understand what these planets are trying to do in that particular situation from a collective point of view. We never take it straight to the individual with the dark planets. That has to be the biggest secret to being accurate in interpreting these planets. So first we're going to talk about the collective, but obviously it's going to be important if you have important placements in Taurus, if you have planets in other signs that Uranus is going to be making aspects to, you want to pay attention to those. And if you want a personal reading where we can take a look at those and your natal chart and anything else that you may be interested in, there will be a link in the description where you can book a live consultation with me. Now, Uranus is the planet of chaos. Uranus brings disruption. The three forces that flow through our collective in this way. Uranus is chaos, Neptune is illusion, the haze of perception, the deception, and so forth. And then there's Pluto, which is basically the decay, the rust, the dying, the process of transformation. So Uranus is chaos, it's anarchy, it's disruption, it's sudden upheaval. Something just happened and God only knows what it is, right? That's Uranus, the planet of what the hell just happened. So this energy is being brought to the sign of Taurus, to the collective sign of Taurus. And when we talk about Taurus, we usually think about, money, we think about physical pleasure because it's the sign of Venus. We think about beauty. We think about food, right? Good food. Maybe even just a lot of food with Taurus. We also think about farming, agriculture, livestock, and things of that nature, all represented by Taurus. But when we're talking about the collective, we really want to look at Taurus as the sign representing the stability of our society. Think about it. Taurus is represented by the bull. The bull is such a stable animal. It's going to be hard to topple over a bull. But if you do topple over a bull, you're going to cause some damage to everything that's around it. And Uranus in Taurus, this is why I use this analogy, Uranus in Taurus seeks to topple over the bull, because Uranus is sudden disruption. Here it comes in the house of the bull, and it's going to push the bull around. Now, when I say stability, there's so many factors in our society that contribute to our stability. So many factors. You know, when we talk about Taurus, we usually talk about finances and the economy and money in general. And that's obviously a very important factor, especially in today's age. Economy is so immensely important to the very fabric of our society, more so than at any time in our history. And Uranus is going to disturb these things through and through. Now, when we talk about this, the stability of society, so many things can happen. I've heard astrologers speak, or I've read, blog posts talking about how Uranus in Taurus, the last time Uranus was in Taurus, it has something to do with the Great Depression of the 1930s. But that's just not true, because Uranus exited Aries and went into Taurus after the Great Depression was over. So that doesn't make any sense. But what it did afterwards, with the onset of global conflicts, World War II, it really shook up the stability of the very fabric of society, to where it was also about economy. Of course, economy was chaotic as heck, right, in the Second World War. But there were so many other factors which need to uphold the stability of society, which were getting shaken by Uranus. And of course, there were other planets contributing to this. We're not going to get into all of that. So, of course, we're going to think about economy. Of course, we're going to think about agriculture. Of course, there's something going to be rattled in the field of agriculture. I'm not sure what it is. I'm not up to date with the latest news or scientific developments in the field. But there is a lot going to get rattled. And again, we may not, even if we're informed about a certain field and we know that Uranus is going to disturb a certain field, we may not really understand what exactly or how exactly it is going to disturb these things, because Uranus is so unpredictable. Uranus is so unpredictable and so sudden. We may not even know exactly when it happens. Though I am going to try to follow the transit of Uranus throughout these 8 years that it's going to spend. It's going to be in Taurus until 2026. So it's up to some lengthy work here, if you can call that work. The antithesis of Uranus is obviously Saturn. Saturn is the planet of limitation, of boundaries, of this needs to be here, and here it's where it's going to be. That's Saturn. It's very strict, it's very orderly, it's very limiting, which is the opposite of what in some ways, in many ways, is the opposite of what Uranus does. But of course, Saturn represents our root chakra, right? And after Saturn in the solar system comes Uranus. And below our root chakra is the field of chaos, the world, the chaos that we need to always keep at bay with our physical activity, with our hygiene, with taking care of our body, with grounding ourselves. All of the things represented by the root chakra are just meant to keep the inherent chaos of the world at bay. And that's represented by Uranus. And astrologically, that's what Saturn does. It comes along, it either stops Uranus from disturbing things too much, or it comes along after Uranus made a mess of everything and says, okay, now we need to reestablish order. That's what Saturn says. Comes after Uranus messes things up. It says, we need to reestablish order, and here's how we're going to do it. This is the pillar for how we're going to establish order again. And then the other planets contribute as well. So, not all people are going to feel this transit of Uranus in the same way or to the same extent and with the same intensity, but we will, all of us on this planet, whether we believe in astrology or not, we will be conscious of the effects of Uranus transiting Taurus. And one way to stay on top of that is to focus on Saturn. Saturn is the natural enemy of Uranus. And many people love Uranus, right? They're enamored with the idea of Uranus. Personally, I don't share that view. I understand the importance of Uranus. I understand the place of Uranus in the universal orchestration of everything. I respect Uranus. I wouldn't necessarily want to be friends with Uranus, right? I do not perceive Uranus as the planet which brings about interesting things. Unless you would consider, well, many times you consider strange and sudden as being interesting. But Uranus is not actually the planet that produces innovation. It's just a planet that disturbs things to such an extent that you need to innovate in order to make them work again. See, this is the difference. This is the very important thing about Uranus. Uranus doesn't care to produce something new and exciting and interesting and revolutionary and invent something new. It doesn't care about that. All it cares about is to mess things up to such an extent that if you want to make those things work ever again, you need to innovate. You need to bring Saturn in and say, okay, now this is what we have to do. And then you need to bring Mercury in and figure everything out, what goes where after the, after everything, after the dust settles, after Uranus has been there. So in Taurus, Uranus is going to mess something up, represented by the symbolism of Taurus. And then it's going to be our job to rearrange the pieces in a new way. Because, again, many times Uranus is going to disturb things so much that you cannot place them in the same order that they were before. Now, face value, many times this intervention of Uranus can seem a bit catastrophic even. But then, with the necessary conscious implication of this supreme species of beings, which we call humans, which we are proudly a part of, then we can come along and make something wonderful out of it with our 7 centers, our 7 planets, Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. Obviously, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto are not part of the energetic blueprint. Get really upset sometimes when I see the dark planets being associated with chakras, but then I think, oh, what do I care? So, yeah, that was pretty much the substance of this talk, I guess. Focus on Saturn. Focus on Saturn. Make sure. Again, let's talk a bit about Saturn. Why not? We are just 12 minutes in. Let's talk a bit about Saturn. This is a rare event. It's only just that we give a bit more attention to it. And I want to help you guys have an easier time with these chaotic energies. Focus on Saturn. If you have a good Saturn in your chart, you will cope better with these things. If your Saturn is debilitated in your chart, in a nasty house, retrograde, or combust, or many other conditions, you may have to work on something. We all have to work on something. But for those of us that have Saturn in a reasonably good, healthy condition, it's going to be easier to do those things. It's going to be easier to summon that discipline, because it takes discipline and limitation. That's what discipline is. It's limitation. Think more systematically. Take a pause. Define the limit between things, whether physical things or non-physical things. Define the limitation between your thoughts. Create a boundary between yourself and your thoughts and your emotions. All of these things, which are of Saturn's nature, will serve you if this chaotic energy of Uranus comes knocking at your door. Okay? Be more disciplined, be more structured, be more rugged. Okay? And be more patient. Patience is a quality of Saturn. Saturn, Kronos, right? The Lord of Time. Because time, what's time? Time is the force that keeps events. All of the universe is just one. And in fact, all of that one is just zero. And all of this multitude of events that happen throughout this infinite universe are kept in their place by something called time-space. Not time and space, just time-space. It's just one thing. And that time-space is represented in our realm by Saturn, because what does it do? It keeps things limited, distanced from each other, separate from each other. Separation, distance, limitation. Keeps things organized in their proper place. So act as Saturn does. Whenever chaos comes knocking at your door, think about Saturn. Think about what Saturn does. Employ the qualities of Saturn. Don't employ the sadness. Don't employ the fear. Don't employ the anxiety of Saturn. Just the rigidity. Sometimes rigidity is good. Okay? When chaos hits, sometimes a dose of rigidity in the right places is good. Now, obviously, that's not to say then we don't need the adaptability of Mercury, that we don't need the fluency of Venus, that we don't need the expansiveness and joy of Jupiter, or the focus and determination of Mars. But the first step when chaos hits is always the limitation of Saturn, which says stop. So guys, I hope this video was useful to you. Again, whenever you're watching this, feel free to share your thoughts down below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, because something about the YouTube algorithm, I should be better informed, but I'm not. If you give this video a thumbs up and comment down below, it helps this video appear more on searches and whatnot. So I appreciate if you do that. And obviously, again, if you want to book some time with me one-on-one via video call and discuss anything about astrology, I'm more than happy to meet you and talk about anything that you may be interested in. Thanks very much for watching this video. Don't forget to go follow me on Instagram, because I post a lot of cool information over there. I also give some free readings, free reports every now and then. And I am working on some very interesting written reports right now that I'm kind of, kind of just developing, kind of tweaking it. My Virgo moon has to have everything perfect, which it will never be, but that's just a curse that Virgo people live under. So thanks very much for watching. I appreciate your time today, and happy Uranus and Taurus. Enjoy what there is to enjoy, and overcome what there is to overcome.